Hi guys, welcome to part 8 of the White Label tutorial series. In this part we're going to be looking at locations. These locations will determine a couple of aspects that the player will face while they're playing a game. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually set up a database table for our locations. Then we're going to look at travelling between the different locations, so going from one location to another. We're also going to factor in a player's level to restrict where players can go and to give them something to level 4. Once we've done travelling to locations, we're going to look at hunting in different locations. We're going to also look at the enemies that we can find in different locations and different shops we can find at various locations. And we're also going to look at adjusting prices as well. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to our database here and we're going to set up a new table and name it locations. This table is going to have 3 fields, and I'll explain what them 3 fields and what each of them do in a minute. Our first field is our location ID, which will be an integer value, an integer type, which will go unsigned, will be a primary index, and will be an auto increment. The next one will be location name, which will be a varchar with a 255 character limit, and the third being level requirement, and this will again be an integer and unsigned. So the location ID is what we will be using to reference between various other tables. The location name obviously speaks for itself. It's going to be the name of the location where we're at. Now a level requirement, as the title may suggest, is going to be the required level in order to travel to certain locations. So we can restrict lower players travelling to some of the harder areas and facing certain doom. Okay, so we'll save that table. Now I'm going to insert 4 or 5 different locations, and then we'll look at travelling between the various locations. Okay, so I've added 5 different locations. Our first location is small town. That has a level requirement of 1. The next one I've added is dark forest with a level requirement of level 2. The third one is big city. The fourth is hazy swamp, if that's how you spell hazy. And the fifth is frozen desert. So these each have level requirements, and they each have location IDs. Now we've got to go into our players table, and we need to add an additional field onto the bottom and name it location ID. This again will be an integer with an unsigned attribute. There's something I've forgotten to do on that one. In fact, is give it a default value of 1, so everyone starts at location 1, which is the small town, and I'll just change the IDs of the current players within the database. Okay, so coming over to our script, I've added two extra include files. I've got a navigation.php and a stats.php. And this is just to make things easier when adding new stats to our main page and different navigation areas, navigation tabs. So in the navigation file, I've added a new list item, and this one I've just named travel to a new place with a href to travel.php. Now currently there isn't actually a travel.php, but as you can see here, we now have that option to travel. Okay, so I've started up a new page and called it travel.php. What we're going to do in this page is we're going to list out all the places that we can travel to. So we do our opening and closing PHP tags and run a query. Okay, so here's our query. All we're doing is selecting all from locations. We're executing that query and running a while loop. Now within that while loop, we're just going to echo out in paragraph tags the names of all the various places that we can travel to. I'll change these to make things a bit easier. So we're just going to travel to location name. So when we come back over to our travel page, we get an error because I missed a semicolon out here. So our page lists the 5 places that we can travel to. We have got small town, dark forest, big city, hazy swamp, and frozen desert. So we also want to turn these into links. So around each one, or around the location name, we'll just add a couple of A tags with a href and we'll give it a parameter. The href add on the get string, we'll just say move, and we'll say move equals row of location ID. So now when we refresh, we should only have 2 of these appear. Oh no, sorry, because ignore me, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Okay, these have all now been turned into links, each with their own ID against the URL. So the next thing we need to do is to restrict what's displayed to where at our player level. So we add on where level required is less or equal to user info. I do believe it is. Oh, sorry, no, it's just user level. So this should restrict anything that is above our user level and only display what the places that we can actually travel to. So now we should have only 2 remain when we refresh. There we go, we can only go to small town and hazy swamp because in the locations those are the only 2 that conform to the where statement. Now if I go and adjust our player level to 2, 2, we should have a third, which would be dark forest. So I'll go and do that. And we'll change our user level to 2, click go, and we come refresh, and we've got that third option to travel. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, at the top of our page, we want to do an if is set, and we want to do the get of move, and is not empty. Like so. So when we click one of these links, we can travel to the location. Now there's one more thing I forgot to add onto the where clause of this query down here. Is the location where the location ID does not equal the user's current location ID, because obviously we don't want to give them the option to travel to the same place they're already at. So upon adding that extra where statement or where clause, we're only left with one location to travel to, because I've reduced the level back down to 1, because we're already in the small town, so we don't want to give the option of travelling there again. Okay, so coming back to the if is set move, we'll look at the script that goes in here. Okay, so this is the short amount of code that's needed to make this the travelling work. The first thing we do is we do the whole preg replace for numeric digits on the posted variable of move, the get variable of move, and we store the data into the move ID. We then run a query. We select location name from locations, where location ID equals move ID, and we also include that and level requirement is less than or equal to the user's user level. We then limit it to 1. We add in that level requirement to stop anyone altering the URL and travelling to places that they're not meant to be, and they can't actually reach due to their level. We then execute that query and put everything in the SQL variable. We check the number of rows returned to make sure it's more than 0. We deposit that information from the SQL into our row variable. We update our players table and set the location ID to the move ID. Execute that query. We enter in a message saying you travel to the location name, and we then set the user's location ID to the move ID here. Coming back over to our page here, as you can see, we travel to Hazy Swamp. We click that, and it gives us a message saying you travel to Hazy Swamp, and changes the locations that we can travel to due to our new location. So I'm going to leave this video here for now. In the next video we will look at hunting in different locations and how we can achieve that. So I'll see you in the next video.